Hey everybody, today we're going to look at this Optoma HD70 that I picked up. The issue with it is there is no power. At least that was what I was told. I figure before we go and open it up, let's make sure. You can see it's still has the lot sticker on it. Let's get that off, we don't need that. Alright, you can see it's an HD70. It's a DLP projector made by Optoma. It's a little older, but these are very nice projectors. They do have HDMI, they have component, they have S-video and video, which is cool, and it has a 12-volt relay output for turning on a screen or whatnot. So I do have the lamp out of it already because I wanted to make sure the lamp didn't explode first. So I figured we'd try it. Let me move my mat over here. It's on the table. And let's see. I'm going to plug the power in. Nothing. And you probably can't hear it, but I could hear it. When I go to plug in the cord, I hear like a little snap kind of noise of the capacitors charging up. So that tells me the power's kind of working. It's getting in there, but it's just not getting where it needs to be. One thing I noticed when I took the lamp out, it's an older lamp. This is actually made by one of the best aftermarket manufacturing companies, or aftermarket lamp companies that you can get a replacement lamp from. This is one of their older lamps. I can tell because it's an SHP69 Phoenix, and this SHP69 hasn't been made in a long time. And we can see, which is why I wanted to show this to you, the dust. There's a lot of dust. Dust is not the friend of a projector, as you've probably come to see if you've watched any of my other videos where we have projectors with dust issues. So what we need to do is get inside. I have a sneaking suspicion this has a capacitor issue on the secondary side of the power supply. I might be wrong. Sometimes I am. Usually when I think I know what the problem is before I start, it ends up being not that, and something's annoying like a bad mainboard. But I'm going to take that lens cap off so it's just out of the way, and let's take that door cover off. The door does have one of the door switches, like most projectors. Sometimes this little tab was known to get broken off, but this tab's fine. You can see more evidence of dust. So let's keep going. Next, we'll take these out. Ooh, come back. There it is. Must not be magnetic. There we go. Oh, I got some grease on it. Now once these are out, it's still not ready to come off. It's close, but it's not quite there. Bring that foot up. It sounds like this thing might be broken. See, the plastic gets hot, and then over time it'll get brittle. So then the next is these screws on the back. I want to take this back panel off. I want the top to come off first. Although I just noticed something. I'm going to stop for a second. See that? Between the yellow and the green? That's supposed to be underneath. That's supposed to be under here, inside there. This is mounted. That little tab's connected to this. And I do see a crack in the plastic. I wonder if somebody had this apart. Surprise, surprise, and didn't know what they were doing. And then put it back together and then I ended up with it. That would be a common result of many electronics. And usually I fix the electronics. They don't just end up with me. Sometimes they end up on a shelf for a while, but they always end up either repaired or parted out to bring other things back to life. So let's take that 5mm nut out, and this one. Now this back panel should come off. Come on, there we go. Come on, little panel, you can do it. See, it's caught on that tab. There we go. A little more. Let's see if we can get that. Getting there. Oh, right, this one. I always forget about this one. That goes through a long pole that ends up on the top. So now, and this one, yeah. Is there one more? Oh yeah. There's 3 that hold the top one. That one, this one, and this one. Yeah. Oof. Somebody really had that in there. Alright. Well, we'll see when we open it up what other person did. And we're just going to go straight up. Just kind of wiggle. And it should break free. There it goes. We do have a keyboard, of course. There's the inside with the 3 standoff things. See, now this part's not so dusty. I'd expect to see more dust. Even the fan doesn't look too bad. I wonder if somebody cleaned it before they put it out to pasture for me to get. It's possible. So now the back comes off. Yeah, see, and there's a bunch of, not a bunch, but there's enough dust here. This probably was never cleaned. And then the lamp goes in here. I'm going to leave that on. Trying to see the lamp fan. Well, we're going to take the main board out after I take this front off. And we'll disconnect the infrared. That's that wire. And now we're pretty much down to the whole mechanism. I wanted to look at this and see why this is weird. Is it broken? Oh yeah. But it might be repairable. Let me zoom you in. Oh, that's not zoom, that's out. Okay, so this thing, this foot, this is supposed to be down tightly. This plastic is not supposed to be loose like that, and that spring shouldn't come out. The spring usually is on that center pin and then drops down into the foot, but this is all repairable. It's not too bad. I'm just going to move these pieces so that they're not in the way while we're working on the rest of it. And does that just pop out now? I think I can just, I'm trying to remember. Maybe it just pops out the bottom. No, it can't. It can't. Does it turn? It turns. There we go. And then we wiggle. And then it should pop out. Yep, there it goes. And we got it out. And then this whole rest of it, we'll deal with that after we get the power on. Power first, and then we'll deal with the rest of it. We're going to unplug these wires. This goes to the ballast control. This is a temperature sensor, I think, or is that a door? Okay, thermal switch. Yeah, temp sensor. a fan, color wheel, remember, blue up on this one, another fan, I think this is a fan, this is an IR, and then we have another temp sensor down there. There's a power supply over here, but I'll deal with that after I get this board up. One, two. And this goes straight up. There's a connector to the DLP board under there. And then we can unplug the power supply. That's that guy. And here's the main board for an HD70. You can see there's all the brain and stuff under there. I'm not going to peel it all up. And some power stuff, and that's the drive for the color wheel. ROM, I guess. HD70 USA. Our goal is this metal can underneath the ballast. Let's unplug the ballast power and see if I can bring the control wire over without unhooking it. Yep. Set that fan down there. I'm going to leave that connected. This runs all the way over to the connector for the lamp. We're going to leave that, but I'm going to take the ballast off and just lean it off to the side. And then these standoffs, half of them, they have the standoffs stacked, so these are holding. You can see that's threaded. It goes into the one underneath. It's an older projector. It's kind of, I don't know what the right name is, but it was the period in their construction where this was as cheap as they could make it without cheaping out on parts. You know, I think this is magnesium instead of plastic. You know, this ballast, this was one of the lower priced ballasts I've seen, but they work fine. It's kind of like this is as cheap as they could go without making it junky. So then these 5 screws come out. There's 4 that hold the power supply, and then there's of course this ground screw that has to come out. And I'm really hoping we see some bloated or leaky capacitors on the secondary. If not, I may even have a power supply for this. I have to check my junkyard, but I kind of think I do. Now the door switch is coming in on this wire here. That's what actually turns on the secondary of the power supply. Oh, and then I guess we do have to take out these 2 screws. So there's 7. There's 2 screws that hold this this metal bracket that holds the power plug in place, so that when you put the cord in, it won't break loose. Take that cover off, just that insulation, and then we will unplug the door switch. Come on, there we are. Slide that out. Let me set that here. I need to pick up those, let me put this somewhere more appropriate. Get these screws and put them with the rest of the screws. Here is the power supply. And on the surface, these look okay. Okay, not great. Matratech. Oh, let's see if we can get that a little easier to see. There you are. Matratech. CT2300B. Input 100 to 240, 4 amp. Output 385 at 0.65 amp, 3.3 at 1.5 amp, 5 at 3.5 amp, and 13 volt at 1 amp. So in theory you could fit anything in here as long as it fulfilled those criteria. Interestingly, the ground? Oh, there it is. Okay, I was going to say, it didn't look like the ground was connected to anything. So you got the tab up there, but there it is. Alright. Well, good and not good. Now what I'll do is I'm going to put this back in, hook up the door switch, put the door on, then we'll plug it in and we'll check some voltage. I have everything all set up. I have the board partly attached. I have the high voltage here. This is the 365 or 385, whatever it's set up. And then the other wires are just there. I do need to put the door back on. I did not do that. So I should probably do that first. Now I have everything set up for testing. I have the board partly screwed in, reconnected the ground. I don't have the secondary connected to anything. I do have the door on, so we should be able to plug this in, knock the meter over. So we should be able to plug this in, and now we should be able to check a few things. First things first, let's check the bridge rectifier and see what we're getting. Negative 100 backwards? Oh, I thought that was positive. Guess not. $113. Let's see if we're getting our 300. 375. There, the probe backwards, but yeah, we're getting our 375. That's a good sign. They do rate it at 385, but there's no load, so that's fine. Let me get a good ground. That'll give me a good ground, and now I'm going to check these pins. We have our 5.1, okay, 3.2, 5.1. That's probably ground. 12.9. That might be a little low. Let's see, they're calling for 3.3 and we were getting what? 3.19. I should probably put the scope on this and see if we have any kind of sawtooth. The other thing we should check is probably put the main board on. I'm going to reassemble this a little more actually. I'm going to plug the main board back in and we're going to check the voltages on the top. Okay, so the main board is now reinstalled. I want to check to see if what kind of power we're getting up here. This is all to the keyboard. There's 5 volts. 5 volts. .2. Nothing. 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 5. And what we got in the last one? Nothing. Yeah. Alright, so next step is reconnect the keyboard. I'm starting to wonder if maybe we have a broken keyboard wire. So I'm going to try an old trick. Sometimes works. You flip the wire around. I don't see anything on here that makes me think there was a power surge. Let's plug it in. Plug it in. Plug it in. Plug it in. And look at that! We have a green light. You know, I'm going to go back and review this video and see which direction the cable was pointing. Because now I'm wondering if the cable was backwards. Because that's exactly what we should be seeing, is that green light flashing. I'm going to take the mainboard back off, put the ballast back in, kind of get the thing ready to run, drop the lamp in, and we're going to see if this thing fires up when I come right back. So through the magic of video production, everything's plugged back in enough. Screws are back in, ballast is in, connectors are in. We're going to plug in the power. Let me get a anti-static bag to put under this. But I'm pretty sure if I see this flashing green, if I hit power, we should get it to come on. Power. Ooh. They flashed. It went green. The lamp came on. The color wheel is spinning. I hear fans. People are laughing and jumping and clapping their hands. We have world peace. Let's see. Yeah, it says Optoma on my hand. You guys can't read it, but I can. It's, yeah, you can see it, Wheezy. Thanks. That was my cat Louise telling us that everything was good. Yeah, and then there's blue, searching for signal. Alright, so I'm going to turn it off so I can clean it up a little bit and put the covers back on. Come on. There we go. And there we go. I'm not quite sure what I did, to be honest with you guys. I unplugged it, I plugged it all back in, and it worked. I'm going to go back and check the video, at least when I edit, and see if this cable, unplug this so I can be safe, if this cable was backwards. One thing I did, because it's a trick I've tried in the past, sometimes these will break slightly in there, and if you flex it differently, it'll work again, you know, long enough to try it. But I flipped the ends, plugged that one in there and this one in here, and I'm wondering, and pay attention to what came out, but I'm wondering if maybe it was that way. If you look at the connector, this side has the contacts. They're only on one side. So obviously if the blue piece is against them, it's not going to do any good. Same thing with down here. But in checking all the voltages, which you saw me do, check the voltages on the power supply. We could have also checked them up here. Had I had any sort of more response, I would have figured to check it up here. But starting at the bottom, working your way in is always a good idea. But checking voltages is the big thing. Too many people want to do repairs just by shotgun replacing parts, like, hey, is it C1, C2, and C3? Yeah, it might be, but really the way you want to do it is check for voltage. If you don't have voltage, find where the voltage went. Is something pulling it down? Something open? You know, troubleshoot. So, yeah, I'm going to clean this up a little bit and then get ready to fix the foot and put this whole thing back together so that it can have a working foot, because that spring goes in there, goes up through the bottom, and then the spring rests on the pin to kind of keep it straight. So this, you can see, that's where it broke. So I want to glue that back together, and I think I'm going to use JB Weld for that, because it does get warm. Super glue would probably work there, but with the JB Weld I can put it on kind of thick and beef up that whole part, you know, all together. Because it's down in there. Move this over a little, and I'm going to have to take these two screws out to get the rest of the bits out that I need to reattach. So I will do that and I'll be right back.